breaking news, and I'm just going to say that this is wildly uncomfortable breaking news. I think that's the most honest, transparent way to talk about this because the Ravens have released Justin Tucker, their kicker, after 13 seasons. Now, there are sides to this story because the Ravens are basically coming out and saying this is a football decision, but we cannot mention this without at least acknowledging that right now a total of 16 massage therapists from 8 Baltimore area spas have accused Tucker of improper conduct. This is something that the league is obviously investigating, and this has become a cloud over the conversation of this kicker who at the same time has seen his abilities decline a little bit. The Ravens drafted a kicker, but they're able to move on under the guise of football decision, and it buries what is really difficult in this conversation, Jori.
Absolutely, yes. The Ravens said sometimes football decisions are incredibly difficult, and this is one of those instances as they started their announcement about releasing Justin Tucker. And I mean, I think you know pretty quickly as you read that they are not using the word football decision lightly. When people actually make football decisions, they don't usually say this is a football decision. And I think this is a team that has a long history of players with sexual assault, domestic violence related allegations. And they're not done with that history because this is a team that, yes, they're saying, you know, the roster dictates that we get rid of Justin Tucker. We drafted a kicker. If anything, I think a different one of their draft picks is what dictates this, which is the fact that they drafted edge rusher Mike Green, who fell because of sexual assault allegations against him. And so this is a team saying, well, we're getting rid of one guy, but we're bringing in another. And oh, by the way, Zay Flowers had some allegations. And again, I'm not here to talk about each of the allegations and all of the evidence on all of them, but I will let you know that it is very clear if you look at the way that the Ravens have built their team in recent years, that this is not a one player that we feel like we have the support for. These are players that they're bringing in, players that things are happening with, or allegations are coming out when they're with the team. Allegations are coming before the team, and we'll see if allegations come after the team. But I just think that the Ravens took a stance on this that wants to say, we don't want to get involved in litigating what happened here. And the only thing I'll say, and not defense of the Ravens, but I guess if we were trying to contextualize this, is the Ravens are protecting themselves. So if they did know about something related to Justin Tucker and all these massage therapists, they're not denying that they knew anything. And then they're also not really giving him a chance to appeal this decision on the basis of personal conduct. So there are some logistical reasons why it makes sense to not get into the allegations, but you don't have to say it's a football decision. Frank, what did you think?
I just think that this is just business for the Ravens. And like you kind of alluded to, they've dealt with this before. And I think their playbook from day one was, we're just going to dance around this and we're just going to keep calling it football decisions. And to be fair, Justin Tucker gave them an out by not being very good last season. I mean, there was a point last season where we were all openly wondering, are they just going to have to cut Justin Tucker and find a new kicker? That's how much of a slump he was in. So I think the Ravens just looked at this is just business. And it was very cold. I mean, when they're talking about putting football decisions as like you mentioned, like the fourth and fifth words in their statement, it's done for a reason. There's a lot of lawyers involved. Let's put it that way.
Second and third words.
Second and third.
Sometimes
okay.
Football
there you go.
decisions
You're right. You're
are
right.
incredibly difficult.
And you
They
knew,
did
and
not wait.
we all just smirked and kind of like, ugh, that it's kind of gross in some ways, but in the other, I get it. It's just business, and they had to CYA here, and that's what they've been doing. They're going to basically skate from this without ever having to really deal with the allegations against Justin Tucker because they knew the game plan all along. They're like, we're going to keep saying, hey, we're just going to make a football decision. We got to make a football decision. We got to make a football decision. You draft a kicker. Afterwards, you say, well, this is a tough football decision, but we get... So you look back and they're like, well, we just said it was a football decision the whole way. And look at Justin Tucker really struggled last season. So whatever. And I hate talking about like the stuff Justin Tucker's alleged with and being like, oh, well, his football legacy. But I am stunned by, if you would have asked us last September, if we were all together talking about, hey, we're just going to have a discussion about who's the greatest of all time at each position, we would have gotten a kicker and been like, you know what, Justin Tucker's probably the greatest kicker in NFL history. And none of us would have like argued that much. Maybe you say Adam Vinatieri or something. But Justin Tucker was considered at that point the greatest kicker, one of the top 2 or 3 in NFL history, and Hall of Fame and all this kind of stuff. And to go from that to where we are now is just, it's honestly staggering. It is just the allegations. I mean, him struggling for half of a football season really doesn't matter, but he's basically going to be persona non grata for the rest of time now. I mean, when the Ravens have, reunions for their 2012 championship team. Is Justin Tucker going to get invited? Stuff like that, where you're just like, and he's brought a lot of this on himself. I'm not trying to make him into a victim, trust me, but you're going to look back and say, wow, his fall from grace was one of the swiftest we've ever seen in NFL.
I mean, we're talking about the team avoiding having all of these difficult conversations. I think one of the questions we have to ask is the league going to get to avoid having these difficult conversations?
I think it is, Fitz. I don't think they're going to ever take this head on because nobody is going to sign Justin Tucker. Come on. I saw a little bit of that yesterday. Like, oh, maybe my team could sign Justin Tucker, or the Browns jokes, and that. But it's like, there ain't no team getting involved with this. I think the NFL would never let that happen because they don't want to deal with this.
Right. And if you look at Justin Tucker on the field, I mean, over the course of a 13-year career, he had an 89.1% field goal percentage. I mean, it from a football standpoint, fantastic. His high year in 2021, 94.6%. Of his field goals made, but that dropped to 73.3% last year. And so in some ways, as you guys are saying, it's convenient that he had this fall off and it gives people an out. And I do also think it's notable, though, that the Ravens statement, while saying it was a football decision and while praising what Justin Tucker's done and his skill and his focus and his drive, resilience, I don't know if that's the word that they needed to use in this particular statement, but all of it was football focused and none of it was his leadership, his locker room presence, the culture. And I do think that for a long time, Justin Tucker did play that role in the team as well. So, I mean, they were pretty intentional to keep the praise on the field. And while, as you guys are saying, the Ravens are going to try and avoid this conversation and the league is going to avoid it, when it comes time for Hall of Fame ballots, this is going to come up.
Oh yeah, I think he's got no shot at the Hall of Fame anymore. It's tough as a kicker anyway. Like it takes a lot. Like even if I remember, like Adam Vinatieri didn't get in, last year, and it's going to take him some ballots and all that kind of stuff. And there's going to be a debate about him. But I think that Justin Tucker went from this is going to be a pretty good debate in the room to like no crickets. Like there's no chance he makes a Hall of Fame now.
I mean, at some point, isn't that why? I guess in my mind, what I expect is that Justin Tucker probably doesn't play, and the league eventually comes out with the findings of whatever their investigation is, and it gets buried on a Friday afternoon, and nobody really gives a damn. But part of the reason they do that, in my mind, is because this is going to be part of the conversation of his legacy moving forward, and the league also has to investigate all of these things thoroughly. Like, this is the hardest part of these conversations in general, is that, the league has made it clear over the course of years that they're going to do their own investigations and they're going to figure out what they believe happened, right or wrong, and whatever does or doesn't happen criminally doesn't impact them. So I don't think that the league can just avoid looking into all of this at this point. I just think the league is going to bury their statement about it on a Friday afternoon when nobody's paying attention, and then that statement will be part of whatever happens for Justin's conversation moving forward. And I don't know a better, I will say this, I don't know a better way that it can be handled. The Ravens couldn't put him out on the field. The league didn't want him to play. These situations are so wildly complicated for everybody to look into. I can't sit here and say, well, I can't pound the table and say, this is what the league has to do, or this is what the Ravens have to do through this process. I just think that the fact that he had a down year makes it really easy for everybody to say, you know what? The return on investment is not worth it for this particular player at this particular position anymore in this league.
But Fitz, when you talk about return on investment, I think you have to ask that question for the NFL investigation too, because if he truly isn't signed again, then what's the return on investment of their investigation so they could say they did it? I mean, the question you have to think about is Brandon McManus last year was with the Jaguars. All these allegations come out about improper conduct he had on a team flight to one of the games in London. And then the Commanders released him because the Commanders, and again, it's kind of interesting how this works. The two Maryland area teams, the Commanders, are now the ones with a much cleaner bill of health in terms of the off-field and domestic violence-related allegations. And then now all of a sudden the Ravens are kind of getting into this. But Brandon McManus, after being released by the Commanders, did end up getting a job with the Green Bay Packers shortly after. And so I'm not sure that no one will pursue Justin Tucker. And I think part of the question will be, will the league try and discourage that? If no one signs him and he just retires, I don't know that the league will continue their investigation because I'm not sure why they would put those resources to it. But the more I look at his numbers, the more I do think that this could be the difference of whether or not he makes it into the Hall of Fame, because I know it's hard for kickers, but no one has a higher active field. Like no one in NFL history has completed a higher percentage of their field goals than Justin Tucker. Adam Vinatieri had 3 All-Pro seasons. Justin Tucker had 5. I mean, he had like single season, career, all of that. Like he really is the top of the leaderboards in so many of these categories, that I do think that had it not been for this, he would have made the Hall of Fame. I don't know first ballot or not. I understand it's competitive, but no one's played the position better than him in certain categories. And now you have to say, okay, but what was he doing at the same time?
Oh, he's the greatest kicker I've ever seen. Like, let's remove all the off-field stuff and just say, who's the best kicker I've ever seen? Like, there was a good solid 6-7 year stretch where if Justin Tucker didn't hit it in the middle of the uprights, you were like, what's wrong? It's almost like when Steph Curry would hit the rim on a 3-pointer instead of just all net. You're like, wow, Steph was really off on that one. That's how good Justin Tucker. He was automatic for a while. Like he easily the best kicker I've ever seen. But yet that's kind of just washed away. Like I just think that it's done. Like when we think about Justin Tucker 5 years from now, I think what we're going to think of is this really, really weird situation in which his career ended, and he's just kind of going to be out of sight, out of mind. The NFL does this to guys. Look, this is a league that didn't even try to sign Lamar Jackson a couple of years ago. They band together Colin Kaepernick, et cetera, et cetera. There is no team that's even going to talk to Justin Tucker anymore. He's done. Like it's over.
I agree with all of this. I think there is some elephant in the room of keep that same energy when we talk about the fact that the way the league handled Deshaun Watson, who obviously has seen wild deterioration in his skill set and his results on the field, and he's still on a roster. And I understand the contracts are part of it, but part of the reason I think the league, like in my mind, it seems like the league needs to make some sort of a statement on it is because there are so many people screaming, are you going to be as loud and are you going to be as vocal and judgmental of everything that we've seen in the way that Deshaun Watson has been treated as we have of Justin Tucker? Because we haven't seen the same level of immediate outrage. We haven't seen the same. So it's a kicker, not a quarterback. And there's all these, there's nuance to this conversation. I'm not trying to come in here and put gasoline on a fire. There's nuance to the conversation. But if the league simply says nothing, I do think whether the league cares or not, it fuels the why don't they keep that same energy for Justin Tucker that they've given to Deshaun Watson in just the same conversation over and over and over again about him.
I think the answer would be if he doesn't play again. Obviously there's the quarterback versus kicker conversation and the quarterback being the face of the team in a way that kickers usually aren't, although Justin Tucker probably came about as close as any kicker has to defying that. But I think this is just, if he doesn't play anymore, why are you still investigating an employee who's still no longer with you?
Yeah, that's fair. That's how it's going to, we're not going to hear, this is going to be it. This is the last time we will ever talk about Justin Tucker. I swear, like it'll be if we set an alarm on our phones for a year from now and I'm like, hey, Jori, remember Justin Tucker? You're gonna be like, oh, wow, I hadn't thought about him since last year when we talked about him on the show. It's just, it's crazy how quickly the NFL could sweep this stuff under the rug when a situation like this presents itself. The difference with Watson is, it's kind of obvious to me anyway, is that Watson had this guarantee. They couldn't get rid of him. They couldn't bury him in the desert, right.
That's the nuance to this.
Yeah, like he's still under this contract for the next 4 or 5 years, whatever it was. We have to deal with this. They don't have to deal with Justin Tucker anymore. The Ravens don't have to deal with Justin Tucker anymore. He gave them an out with his play to where the second and third words of their release were football decisions. Everybody knows the deal here. It's slimy and gross in many ways, but that's just how it is. Like we will be a year down the road and we will think, oh my goodness, yeah, Justin Tucker, totally forgot about that guy.
All right, so let's make a football decision to move on as we figure out some of the biggest storylines.
Sometimes football decisions are difficult, but it's time to move on.